Welcome to Crossing Darkness, a podcast about role-playing games ranging from games set in the world of darkness to MMORPGs like EVE Online and everything in between. We broadcast live over Twitch and are open to answering questions from chat during the show. I'm your host, Frozen Fallout, and today we have a very special guest, Serge.
Hello.
Shoot, I can't say. Can you say that?
Devriendt. It's pronounced Devriendt.
Devriendt.
Nobody does that.
I'm horrible with names. How are these Dark Knights treating you, Sergey?
Well, we're slowly moving into spring here in Belgium, so the days are getting longer and we're getting more sunshine, which is really nice. But yeah, we basically survived the worst of winter, which was 1 week of snow, and everybody complained about it.
Oh wow, you guys got it easy. That's
Oh yeah, I mean, it's like my mom used. I talked to my mom the other day, and she said like, I don't know why everybody's complaining. It used to like freeze -20 for 6 weeks straight. Here it freezed, snowed one day, and everybody's complaining that they're dying. Like, yes, mom, yes, indeed.
so
I
here
have
in
no
America,
idea.
Texas got hit by like a crazy snowstorm that like is totally not something they expected to ever have. Like the entire power grid went out for them and everything like that. It was like a horrible event that happened down there, and it was like we had a lot of snow more this year. It was pretty crazy how we got hit by winter. Was not kind to America.
Oh. Well, in over here it depends a bit, but generally we are in a fairly mild climate, so we're pretty good here.
Nice.
It's like when I don't exactly know, like if you have like the whole of Western Europe, like we're spot in the middle at the Northern Sea, so it gets colder the moment you move into Germany and to really towards toward the Nordic countries.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that's it's an interesting place for sure. There's a lot of talk about we respect you. I was talking to you a little bit before the show was starting. Like Wisconsin loves Belgium everything. Like we have
Really?
oh yeah, Belgium waffles and your beer. Like I mean, we're just beer connoisseurs, so it's like
Okay.
when any kind of country that kind of has any kind of stamp on we make good beer, we're like, well, let's go check that out. We have like
Oh,
tons of microbreweries here because we're just like, oh yeah, everybody should be making their own beer. Why wouldn't you?
well, for us it was basically like, hey, look, it's a small village. It has monks, but it has a beer. It has a beer, of course. So, but this is actually interesting. In Belgium, we have a lot of, well, a lot. We have places who still have the old uh, monasteries who still have monks who from the orders who make their own beer, and it's been becoming so popular of late. They use the money to renovate things as well, but it's so popular that they don't rush it. They don't do anything in like industrial quantities. So you have to call in, reserve, and then they check your license plate, and you're allowed to take 1 crate of authentically crafted beer by monks.
Oh wow, that would be
And
awesome.
they're really good. I mean,
I'm sure
it
they've
has a
been
because
perfecting their
they,
craft.
they still brew on the old ways, modernized of course, for hygienic standards and so on.
Mhm.
But they're not like these like industrial crafted beers that you would taste in stores. They have this like hefty feel to them, and that I'm a big fan. I've like in Belgium, like we over here, we have people who either like wine, who like beer. I'm a beer person.
Yep. I like wine, and I like beer, but I just like to peruse it and taste it and I'm like one of those people that you'll see like you're sitting at the bar with like the same beer for the first, for an hour, and it's like, why do you have only one beer this entire hour? It's like, oh, I'm still working on it. It's fine.
Uh, I'm I'm
I
I'm
like the
horrible.
taste, but
I'm horrible with wine. I mean, half a glass of red wine and I fall asleep, and two glasses of white wine and I'm drunk. I have zero tolerance to anything that's wine related.
yeah, I've been trying to build up a wine tolerance to a certain degree, because I'll like play video games and be like, okay, I'm gonna stream and I'm going to go out and play a spaceship video game, go blow people up. This is just the perfect time to just sit back and drink wine all night long, and by the end of
Mm.
the night, I am like super trash. Well, not super trash, like for me, super trash.
This
Like
is a
it.
very good game.
No, I haven't ever passed out on stream or done anything I regret on stream, but I've definitely been to the point where I'm just talking and have no idea really what's going on in the video game anymore. And I'm just trying to just talk to myself and chat. But speaking of gaming, how did you get into gaming? What was your kind of experience with getting
Oh,
into video games or tabletop games?
well, I think I was like way before the advent of the internet. There was something I've always been interested in fantasy literature and fantastical stories and sci-fi, even as a kid, which mystified my parents and my classmates to no avail. Um, and yeah, I started browsing around, trying to find things in libraries, but came from a small village here at the coast, so basically what there was the only thing I had access to. And one day I saw a Nintendo Entertainment System, so an NES, and yeah, that was love. I mean, I used to have a Commodore 64 when I was way younger, still with the cassettes. So that took like ages to load one game, and I think I was just too young to properly appreciate it
Hmm.
because I was only like 6 years old at the time, and I had to figure out everything on my own in books in languages which weren't my own, and just trying to run up to random adults that were friends of my parents, asking them to translate how do I do this. But also, yeah, over here we're closer to England, so Games Workshop was always a bit present, and things like Hero Quests rolled in. And then when I think I was like around 13, 14 years old, I met a few friends and we got talking. And they said that they were playing role playing games. They were a few years older than I was. And then I actually convinced my mom to let me go off once a week at 14 years of old with my bike, like 5 kilometers or 3 miles over, to play with people she had never seen before. It's a game, mom. It's a game, and yes, 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 we'll do this. And here's the phone number, and it all just started from there. And then as the internet advanced, um, we had more and more things slowly seep in, so you could just enrich yourself. I think that was when I was around 18 or 19 that I got my first real internet connection. And yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, you just could play games online slowly. You could just talk to friends. You could find people with similar interests, because like when you're the only kid in your town who has interests of these, life is tough. I'm not gonna lie about that. uh, but yeah, it just basically spiraled from there, and we pooled basically books. We bought books and we just exchanged them, took notes. We started playing World of Darkness, really cringy World of Darkness if I look back on it now. I mean, but you're 16 years old and you play a vampire. I mean, a Bruja is way cool. Yeah, rebels. Yeah, because or a gangrel, never a Vantru. I mean, Vantrus are dull and meh.
Oh
Never a
yeah.
Toreador. That's for artsy fartsy people, which is weird. Never a Malkavian unless you want to do something really weird with it. But yeah, we just explored most of the universe. Same like with Dungeons and Dragons.
Hmm.
I still have my original second edition hardcover, which has seen a lot of wear and tear over the ages, but I lovingly keep it around because it's just this little treasure. And even up to this day, I can just take the book, sit down in the couch, and just read in it, read the rules about cargo limitations on a ship, and be happy with a beer next to me. It's like it's just like this little bubble of happiness, joy, and contentment that you look into. Like, this book has brought me so much joy over the years. It's amazing.
I do have to say
Um,
I'm a big fan of second edition because that was the first edition that I got into for Dungeons and Dragons. It was and actually when I got into it was just when they came out with, and I don't know if you, there was second edition revised that came out. That was like a
yeah,
2.5, and then like that's when I got into it. Was not too long after that had, it was just about to come out or something like that. So as soon as it came out, I was like, I'm buying this up, and I bought up all the 2.5 books, and it was not like, I don't know, like 6 months later or something like that that they came out with like 3.5. Maybe it was a year or two, but I feel like it was like really quick that all of a sudden from 2.5 we went to this 3.0, and
we
then
spent a lot of. I think I started playing in Ravenloft with a dungeon master who was hardcore and brutal in that, so that were painful lessons. I played a very good Dark Sun campaign, and that actually around that time it's the first time that I started running my own game, and which was Dragonlance, which was high adventure and fantasy.
hmm yep.
Um,
Love Dragonlance. We did Faerun and Forgotten Realms and Spelljammer was two of the things that we got into in second edition. Um,
it was also the joy. Like, we had one gaming shop in the nearby city. It was always a joy, just like, after school, you go pass by just to see if there's nothing new that comes in, because sometimes you have to wait for months for something to come out, or actually to trickle down to here.
hmm
But it was just a period of joy that you could buy books and you could, like, read, like pertains so much ideas, so much adventure from it. And then just scouring the like old collections, just to run stories for your friends.
Yep. Yeah,
What
when
I've been
my
doing, well,
parents found out that I got into gaming and they were like, "Oh, so you guys are all studying. Like that's all I
sure.
see you're doing is just a bunch of studying. Like you're all sitting around studying together. Like this is okay. I don't need to be concerned about, like, because there is a little bit of that, like Dungeons and Dragons and Vampires the Masquerade is like, the way into the cults, and the demon stuff. What was it, like Towers or something like that came out? There was like a movie that came out that like scared everybody about
Well, I'll be
Dungeons and
honest, we
Dragons.
never really had that in over here in Europe. Well, not in big scares and crazes, I think.
hmm
I do know my mom and my dad were just. My dad didn't understand anything and was like, "Mmm, work," and my mom was just like, "If it makes you happy." I mean, she didn't challenge it or anything, but it's just, she I don't think she really understood the concept of it
When you guys
at
have
the
a more
time.
of a tabletop, or sorry, board gaming is pretty strong in like
That
that
actually has
area.
developed in the last, let's say, 15 to 20 years.
Oh, okay, so that's a recent
Um,
development.
we always had the classics, but over into like, I would say, like 20 years ago, it actually started in Germany, which we see a bit as the really the capital of board games, because the amount of board games that gets released in Germany is humongous. I
Oh
mean, I
yeah.
think we have like publishers here who go to one of the major conventions, which is Spiel, that I mentioned in our chat before, um, which is 4 days where every publisher that you can think of comes to produce and present their new products.
Mhm.
And I think it's up to 1,000 new releases with their old products as well on those 4 days that you can go and test and find and play and buy. And I've only like a percentage of that trickles down to our market to get translated locally. But yeah, it's been, I don't know, it's like I think around the year 2000 board games became more and more into the public mind here, as in the even common shops that we have here carry a large assortment of board games. Things that you would have said like, oh, this is really geeky like 30, 40 years ago, are now just sitting in family games. Over here, next to a Monopoly like an Azul or a Carcassonne, is sitting here next to a Monopoly and a Stratego.
Hmm.
So it I think it's also like people got a bit tired of watching television all the time, and just this culture and this moment of let's share a moment together. Let's just crank out a game. Doesn't really matter who wins or loses. Well, actually, it always does,
There have been
but
so many fights
like
that my families have gotten into
I can
over
imagine.
board games. I mean, nothing, but it doesn't ever spill over, to the, to outside of the
Yeah,
game. But in the
I
game,
mean,
man.
I personally, one of my favorite board games is Battlestar Galactica, and I've had huge fights and discussions and yellings while the game's going on. But that's it. It stops at the end of the game, which is nice. And then you just talk, you were a bastard. You were a rat ass bastard. I mean, I couldn't believe that you did that. And you're just like,
Betrayal.
But I think it's also a bit over here that people got a bit tired of just that, and just, we have many gaming clubs in Belgium. I think most towns or cities have one these days, or at least something within, let's say, 10 to 20 kilometers of where you live.
Mhm.
And they have dedicated game nights or themed nights. We have a lovely place here called the World's End Comics and Games here in Ghent, which is a lovely bar slash game shop. And it's open, 6 out of 7 for like 14 hours a day. Well, before the pandemic, it was. And you just see people have their nights. They come together with friends. They play games. They talk about the week, and they share these moments without being stuck in front of a screen. And that's, I mean, it's funny, as far as computers have developed here, and as far as they're so ingrained in our jobs and ways, that people go back here to find ways to spend time together in a joy and a fun activity, but nothing just like, okay, we're going to sit around the table and we're just going to drink and talk. But it's doesn't always have to be high rise. You do your turn, you do your actions. It's not you have a little bit of downtime. You talk a small subject about it with a friend. Then it just, it organically shifts, which is really nice. And it's something that I've missed in the last year that we've been in quarantine here. Because I'm in a Legends of the Five Rings role playing game with friends, and I run a Dark Ages that's been going on for 4 years now. We're almost at the end of the first book of the Transylvanian Chronicles, so I'll probably
Oh.
one time I'll probably. I mean, I get distracted. So we've done Paris, we've done the Crusades. We're currently in Iberia, and I'm just having too much fun telling stories in the age to slowly progress the story.
I really want to check
But
out that chronicle. I'm really, really interested. I've got to find like an actual play of somebody that's done it.
well, I'll be happy to chat about it. The thing is, though, is it's a product of its time. As in, if you read the book, there's a lot of ideas in it, which White Wolf tended to give you and then you just fill it in your own chronicle. But by quality standards and content standards of the products that we're used to buying these days, it's actually quite low. It's also a bit written in assuming things that probably they developed or they experienced. But it takes a lot of things to fill in the blanks with your group. But like any good role playing group, you just talk about what kind of game you want to tell
Mm-hmm.
and what kind of game you want to experience.
Yep.
And along the way, I mean, we have discussions sometimes. Like our dungeon master for the Legend of the Five Rings, he's really a stickler for the social rules. But that occasionally we have to have a discussion. Like, okay, maybe we pushed it a bit too far because not everybody is comfortable at playing at that level. Communication in a role playing game still it's a back and forth. You know, when you're young, it's like it's me against the players or the players against the dungeon. Now it's just you tell a story,
Mm-hmm.
and some people like to have it really rules heavy, which is fine. Because then it becomes part of the challenges that are presented, and sometimes you just like to have, yeah, sessions or even games or even chronicles who are low. Because something that helped me to evolve, I think, in the last year or so is switching the scenes between the players more often.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're on a phone call, everything is more analog. You know, like occasionally, like when like you have five people at the table, two of them are discussing amongst each other. One of them is reading something in the rule book, and you're basically running a small scene with the fourth one. When you're on the phone, well, when you're on Discord, it's everybody needs to wait their turn. So it's a faster editing between players. Like, okay, couple of sentences and maybe a roll with you, then we switch to them, and you just to keep everybody occupied.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It,
I
it, it
I
it
agree with
feels
that.
like it's quite it's sometimes at times it's a bit of a chore even, but yeah, it also helps you. I find that it helps me to develop more in the way that you can interact with your players. But I'm
Yep.
dying to just sit at the table again, because I like, the fallacy of the dungeon master. Oh, look at all the things I prepared. Okay, they either blew past it in 5 minutes, or we're here for the next 3 weeks.
We didn't get
Could
anywhere.
you leave that house plant alone? It's not part of the clues. But are you sure? Yes, I've written the story. I'm perfectly willing to include
You're
a house plant
tricking
again.
me. You can't do that.
But I mean, honest to God, it's not part of the story right now. But yeah,
No, yeah,
I'm really happy that we're able to play, because
yeah. I have to say things have been working really well and that's one of my questions. Is how is it holding up for you during the pandemic? And I found, and I completely agree with you on the concept that it's been interesting to see the how you kind of jump from one person to another in it's really much more of it's easier to kind of churn it into like churns for yourself. So okay, I'm going to take a churn with this person, I'm going to take a churn with this person, and kind of let them work out their stuff, because like you said, they don't interact the same as when you're all in person, because when you're all in person, it's a little bit more kind of free flow of like who's going to be saying what's going on and stuff, and what people are going to be kind of doing. And like you said, somebody will be looking up a stuff in the book, so. But it seems like Discord, like everybody's a lot more focused. They're not eating, if they are, it's a lot less, obvious what's kind of going on. And everybody seems to be. I do an actual play, so it's Mage the Ascension, Technogate. So it becomes, we're also like, okay, so we're broadcasting this to people, so we should probably be a little bit more on point. So we don't really have a lot of, out of game discussion, and it's kind of cool just to sit back. I've been really loving just sitting back and just letting my players just role play with each other, because like most of the time we're trying to be in character, you know, because it just feels much easier when you're broadcasting. It's just okay. I'm just gonna jump into my character and just start talking, and then I give a little bit of liberties to my characters as well, as to be like, okay, you don't have to ask me, to get to a new scene. You can just open up a new scene if you want. I'm gonna
Yeah.
go down over to, I'm going down to the local bar. I'm gonna grab, the players, and we're gonna go talk to Jimmy, because I know Jimmy is very important, to what we're gonna be doing here. And you don't need me to be the one to drive you all the way to Jimmy's. You can do that if you want. If you want to role play that out, okay, I'm getting in my car. John, you getting in the car too? Okay, we're driving down the thing, and you can take control of that if you want. Where I feel like a lot of other games and other players, that I've done in the past at least, are always waiting for you to. They're like, okay, we're gonna go to Jimmy's, and then they pause, and they wait. They're like, okay, let me come in and tell you then how you got to Jimmy's, because they want to
Mm.
have like an adventure that kind of goes along the way sometimes. But when you're
But
heavy on the role play, you get a lot of like you can get some uh, agency.
mm, well, it depends from player to player as well. I mean, I have two players in my vampire game, and their characters are polar opposites, both in philosophies, but they've known each other for now 150 years in game and 4 years of playing. So it's like they're very good frenemies. They are at the opposite end of the spectrum. Like one is really self-contained and believes in the development of the self, and the other believes in the development of the flock of the group. But it's just lovely to see them, because then they just go on a discussion again, and nobody ever wins the discussion. The debate never ends, but they never win. It's like, but they always finish at like, okay, let's agree to disagree then, huh? I mean, apparently today you're again not willing to listen, and I'm just like sitting there like, ah, they're so cute. But other players need to be guarded more. Like
Hmm.
in our other
Yep.
role play, we have somebody, and if you don't pay attention to her, she'll just be quiet for the whole session. So you have to actively ask her things, and then she comes up with wonderful ideas and wonderful discussions. But you need to it's like a very shy cat. You need to lure her out of her box, and then she's perfectly willing to play. And yeah, there's players who are naturally, they'll talk to a dog who has a hat on. um, and there's players who are just happy to be in the group and happy to participate, but don't need to take the relay. But I think it's also important that these players get their light to shine, but you need to adapt your methods a bit to their wants and needs. Like
Yep.
they don't need to go bombastic, but they do need to feel like they're included in the story and they were relevant from the things that they said or the idea that they gave or even just the skill that they used. Like they have to have this feeling of like I contributed.
Yep.
And because there's nothing worse as a player, I think, if you're playing in a game and somebody gets all the attention and you're just sitting there like, but I mean, look, I do something as well. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, you succeeded to move on. Now we're going to do this. Like, no, that player needs to be like involved,
Hmm.
and
You got to move that
he needs to
spotlight around.
feel. Yeah, he needs to feel that he's of value in this game. Because at the end of this, I used to play like when I was younger. We used to play like basically games. You just picked up people, random people, and you play the game, and then you don't really get to know them so quickly, or you don't really know the people as well. And these tended to be then bigger groups because everybody wants to play and nobody wants to be the storyteller and put in the work. Uh, and you have like, I'm sorry. I mean, you're just the 50 extra hit points that I have.
Right.
It's cruel to say, but this is the only thing that you contributed to the entire 4 hours that we've been here. Is there a problem with that? Is there something that you want to do, like that you want to engage on? And yeah, no, they're there because they want to be there, but they don't really want to play. They don't really want to play, or they're intimidated. And these days, we tend to play more like with a bit smaller groups and people that we know,
Hmm.
which has challenges of its own because sometimes it's too easy to know a person and to know how they're going to react to certain things. So it's fun to have a new player into the group as well because they bring this new dynamic, this unknown, but
Hmm.
you want to get to know this, um, and that just I think with people that you really know and longer stories, you have the ability to develop fuller games in that. Like pickup games are fun because I've run some games on conventions as well, but then you need to keep it really high level. Like everybody does something, everybody things happen, and people have this feeling like, yay, we played a game,
Hmm.
but that's not the game I look for anymore. I think it's like I think people evolve in their games as well, and I like interaction. Like if it translates a bit to board gaming as well, because in board games you can have games where you just everybody does his thing, but there's no interaction in that. And I know
Sure.
people who hate that because nobody wants to be like, I'm going to buy this and then I'm going to build that and then I'm going to be happy because it's going to give me that resource. And then somebody comes like, yoink, but I was going to do this. Yes, but I need it now. Thank you. Bye.
It's kind of like the difference between like poker without playing for with chips at all or anything, where it's just everybody just goes around, you put down your hand, you win, whatever. There's no interaction between any of you. You just get some cards or whatever. But then you get the betting in there. There's a little bit more. Or like Catan. Catan is a game that is just so much interaction. It's all about
It's
the
also the game that I hate the most. I mean, I am not a Catan fan. Absolutely not. I think it's a horrible. It's basically a more. It's like Monopoly, but it got sneaky and it marketed itself as being a good game. Like, no, absolutely not. You are still a piece of trash. Like, no, this is a bad game.
But yeah, so I mean, but yeah, there's lots of different kind of like getting interaction. I think is really huge, and that's one of the things that I've tried to do as a storyteller is try to focus on role play more than anything, and having role play be what I from the beginning of my games, that's kind of what I'm presenting to my players is this concept that there's going to be a strong level of role play. Rules will be there, but it'll be to support the role play. We may skip over rules sometimes, and sometimes we might, have nitty gritty combat and go through the whole spectrum of all the accurate rules of stuff. But for the most part, it's all about trying to just create a good atmosphere for some role playing to be happening between the characters with some kind of problem solving. Usually that's kind of happening, and trying to like move the spotlight around, not necessarily always in one episode or one session. To a certain degree, I'll definitely just naturally make sure that the spotlight is being moved around. But I like to like kind of every episode, usually somebody is kind of in the spotlight of that episode to a certain degree and kind of naturally trying to move it around to okay, this is going to be a racing episode, so I know that this character is really great at racing, so that's going to make them really important in this, but also make sure that there's a bunch of stuff to do inside of the car for all the other characters so that they
Yep.
can participate, we have the racer at the spotlight, but making sure everybody gets their turn to, when the racer is doing some really important stuff. And it almost turned out that it was like the supporting cast was way more important and did some crazy stuff that you didn't expect them to do at all. I mean, and we're playing mage, so of course every time you get to say something, it's possible that you've just thrown us all for a complete loop, and you might have just taken us to a paradox realm, or like.
No. You win some, you lose some. It's like, but yeah, but I do agree. Rules. It's important that the game world itself is put into a matrix, into a frame, as in like I can do this, I cannot do that. But the flexibility that you have in there. I mean, there's nothing worse than like a player comes with a brilliant dialogue or a brilliant idea, and then you just look at the rules and you say like, actually, you're not supposed to be able to do that, and that just would rob the person from his moments, which is and I think that that's to give that to a player or to do that to a player is one of the worst things that you can do, because if you take away their agency and their ability to do things, they're going to stop doing things, because they're
Absolutely.
going to go like, well, nothing ever works, why would I give it, why would I try? And no, I mean, we're gonna fudge the rules a bit now, because you did really well here, and I'm so proud of you, and I'm just so amazed at you. And I mean, it's lovely to see that. It's also, especially when you have like a player who's new or developing or is trying new things, and then they just pull something out of the hat, and you go like, oh wow, nice! I did not see that coming. Do we have to roll? Absolutely not. I mean, just throw some dice, but absolutely we're keeping this, because that's amazing. And
Yep.
that's also a reward for them, because they see like, and then they go like, oh, I did something else, and then you have the other players talking to them like, whoa, remember that? That was awesome. I like to have occasionally like recap sessions in which they're talking to other people, and they're asking them about their adventures.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
that's a good idea.
who give them the idea of like, what did you do there, because we've heard rumors and I want to hear it from you. And then they get this chance to tell about their own stories, and from the perspective of their characters. And that's a fun thing that that they have this recap that they can give, but they can also bask a bit in the glory that they've done. Like
That is interesting. That is something that I've got to do more. I do it maybe a little bit, but not enough. I've done some kind of recap episodes, especially like just recently. One of my players ended up getting kind of knocked out. So when he came back at the beginning of the episode, we were like, okay, so everybody explain in character what happened the last episode, because he got kidnapped and now you have a vampire, and and a lot has changed since he got knocked out and kidnapped. So you're gonna need to explain what happened last episode.
got some explaining to do. Yeah, for example, what was good is they tend to rib on each other with the things that they also did wrong, because and they hold it against each other, but not in a way that you like. And that's fun, because then you can have like somebody standing there riddling like, what the hell is all this about? Well, Mister here, blah 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 blah, and then they tell they tell the story, and the story changes. It's well, the general gist of it remains the same, but then they, you know, as memory fades, they add things or they forget things, like some important detail, and they're like, and then they start arguing. That's not how it happened. It happened like this. I mean, don't listen to him. He's just gonna tell you bullshit. This is the real way it happened. You're just sitting there like, and then you're just sitting there and looking at your notes. None of these stories are true,
Yeah,
you know.
you're all wrong.
You're all leaving out some very crucial elements. I mean, can we? But that also makes it fun, because they get to enjoy their accomplishments, and sometimes recall certain things that they forgot about their character or they forgot about the chronicle, and that helps them to move on and to grow again as a character and a player.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and what we call it the rule of cool here for when we fudge the rules. It's like okay, you just said something really cool. There's no such thing in the rules that there's anything that I could like try and I'm just gonna completely I'm gonna do my own wits roll, and we're just gonna figure out how to get this to work for you. And sometimes even it's like okay, so you did the roll and you just botched for like the rule of cool that just happened because we wanted still a roll out there. So it's like you still accomplished what you wanted. That's fine. We're gonna say everything you said succeeded, and then right after it succeeded, something terrible is gonna be happening to you. It's like the you're doing this crazy like action in order to like grab somebody from on the other side of the wall. So you want to like bust through the wall, grab them, and like throw them through the wall because you're a big werewolf or whatever. And it's like, oh, that sounds cool. You do the roll for it, you botch. It's like you do that, but when you throw them, you go with them. like
Yeah, that opens more possibilities. I mean, the unexpected is really good to push your players a bit out of their comfort zone in comforting actions that they're used to do, which is like if you have somebody who's really good at debating, and then he just stands there and like he just like blah 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 blah, and he just rolls really well, and then you're just like, okay, well, the guy you're debating on, he just looks at you and he headbutts you, and then they go like, "But I just I had so much. I mean, but what? Yeah, I mean, the guy just basically decided like, yeah, I'm not gonna top that.
yeah, can't win the
Bam!
verbal. Time to go to physical.
And then you have like this uber social character who's like, I'm getting my way with everybody, who has now a broken nose and is absolutely like the player is completely out of his comfort zone. Like, help! This is not what I've trained for. Help! This is not a good thing. Help! And like you're sitting there like, and now it's time to figure your way out of this one.
Um, so one of the things I kind of wanted to get in with you was about the different kind of conventions and kind of stuff that you do because you do some cosplay, right? And you also do some writing, and you were talking about the Splunk, was it, or Spunk or
Spiel.
Spiel? That's it, Spiel.
Yeah, I'll send you the link. I mean, there's actually people coming from all over the world for this. As far as the States and even Asia, as far as I know, just because it's such a huge event here in Europe. So I'm a member of the Mandalorian Merc. We do screen accurate Star Wars costumes that we create ourselves, which we then go to conventions with as part of usually the fan villages who are there to entertain people and have a lot of fun and laughs behind the screen, so to say. And we also do a lot of charity with that. Like we go to children's hospitals, or we go to sometimes like people who are sick just to go. We work together with the Lego stores here in Belgium for that. Like we troop for them, and then they give us some swag, and then we take that swag and we go to children's hospitals and kids who are in hospital for a long time or who are rather, we then in costume from their favorite heroes give them some toys.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, we work together with the 501st, which is basically the Empire side of Star Wars, and the Rebel Legions, which are the rebels, and we're the good guys because we're the Mandalorians. You might have seen a show about us recently.
Maybe. There was some kind of little
Yeah,
little guy, something, he's kind of cute, maybe.
as for conventions here in Belgium, they really started hitting the main public, let's say about 10 years ago. One of the main ones is Facts, which caters for, I think, about over the weekend for about 80,000 people. And we have
Wow.
a few Comic Cons, but they're really small ones, and they're usually also situated in different cities
Hmm.
than the main one. So usually our convention schedule here in Belgium, if you really want to, you could go to some kind of event every month
Hmm.
and spend a lot of money. But yeah, and it's been developing well in the last 10 years. Although again, it's on hold. But I've never been to a convention outside of Europe before, so I'm not entirely sure what I should imagine to it. But it usually caters here to a lot of fandoms, and we notice a lot of difference. Like Saturday usually tends to be young people who come with their friends and hang out all day. And then on Sunday you have families coming in, which is awesome because then
Hmm.
you're there in costume and you have this mom and dad and the kids coming out and they're like,
That's
and
awesome.
you just
Yeah.
have this helmet on and you're like, damn straight.
Yeah, it sounds like it's pretty similar actually, because I mean we like our biggest not biggest, but one of our bigger, I think it is maybe the biggest, is Gen Con, which is like 100,000 is like our max that we get for that. But we have like Origins and stuff, and I think they're only like 20, 30,000. But we have a lot of little cons all over the place, little comic cons, little gaming cons. Of course, there's Gary Gygax, Gary Con, that is the original D&D. There's his sons have kind of picked up and started doing their own, because Gen Con kind of got taken over by Wizards. Well, by um, to a certain degree, Wizards of the Coast kind of taken that over more than, and Gary Con kind of brings it back a little bit more to its roots of being in the Geneva area, because they, Gen Con got huge. It got to the point where it's just, it was this little itty bitty, thing that Gary kind of imagined, where it was like, oh, let's do wargaming and Dungeons and Dragons and get people together. And people are like, yeah, I guess that people might want to do that. And it's like, yeah, a lot of people do.
Well, over here they're more say main fandom based for things. Like
Hmm.
of course we have like Nintendo and Sega and so on. Like we have all these places sitting there as well. They build up an arcade. They they do shows. They have actors coming in.
Hmm.
But it's a bit less about the tabletop gaming, although
Yeah, it's
there's
more about the
been
fan, and that's here too. Is a lot of our 90%, I would say, of our cons are fandom based. Star Trek, Star Wars, all those types of things. It's like you grab your niche and you grab up, the 20,000 people that you can get to travel to whatever city that, smaller city that you usually pick, or even the bigger cities. But because like Madison here, we have, we do have a game hole con, which is like a gaming con, and we do have like a comic con that comes by here. So Madison has more of kind of the generic things, but most conventions are very fandom based here as well. There's not a lot of, oh, just we're just a general tabletop gaming um, convention, but they are out there as well, which is the ones I actually frequent a lot more, is the general gaming.
well, there's been some headway, as in like there who run sessions on these events to get people into it, but they're usually connected to some of the bigger game stores here in Belgium. But I don't think we have a dedicated gaming, like tabletop gaming convention here.
Oh, really?
Because no, but Belgium
Pretty,
is a small country,
yeah. I'm sure in Europe
so
there's lots of them, and Europe is pretty accessible to you. So,
yeah, it is. It is. But I don't think in general. I mean, going back on Spiel. So that is the biggest gaming event that we have each year here in Europe. As in, like people come from all over the place for that. It's usually probably a bit like for Gen Con, you either reserve now for next year
hmm,
for
yep,
your place to stay.
yep.
Um, but that is actually the closest thing that I know of here within, let's say, 5 hours of driving. That's huge in gaming events.
Mm-hmm.
There, as I said, there has been some headway that's been making it because it gets more popular and popular. We have here in Belgium, we run the Con event, which is dedicated to all kinds of tabletop gaming, role-play gaming, miniature gaming, and so on. It's not that big. I think it's also like maybe 10,000 people over a weekend
Mm-hmm.
that come by.
Yep, that's
But then we have a lot of the publishers of like not the mainstream publishers of miniature games who are invited here. Also like Civil War, Colonial, all kinds of things that you wouldn't find in a normal mainstream shop,
mm-hmm.
like not a Games Workshop, for example. And that's been pretty popular as well. It's been growing every year because there is also an interest in that is in like people it's a lot more accessible as well to find information about it. For example, I just got my booklet of A Billion Suns that I saw a couple of weeks ago, and it's spaceships who duke it out, and you can play with it whatever kind of model and whatever kind of tokens you have lying around, which is really fun. And those are the tiny kind, the smaller games then that get celebrated, if I can call it like that, on that event. And there are popping around because most of those are run by local game clubs with dedicated people who engage themselves for that.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. That's awesome. So one of the things we're kind of getting up almost on an hour here. One of the things I just wanted to give you some time was to talk about any projects that you're currently working on, or any shout outs that you kind of want to give to give out on the show here.
Oh, well, I want to do a shout out to my lovely players Gael, Wute, and To for making me laugh every 14 days in my vampire game. And my projects that I'm currently working on, we from Geekster. We got contacted by Fria Liga. I don't know if you've heard from them. They're
I'm not
the
familiar.
company from Sweden who created Tales from the Loops and the Alien RPG, and
Okay.
they've asked us to review a number of their products. So that's what I'm currently working on. I just done the review from Simbarum, which is a role play that I sort of an atmosphere that I've not encountered yet. It has a very Dark Souls esque feeling about it.
Mm.
Like it is this fairly brutal world where an ancient kingdom once was, but its focuses on the current day, and it has a forest that spans an entire continent. And they call it the light part of the forest and the dark part. And the light part is basically 4 days in, and then you are on your own because then nobody's there to still help you. And there's dark and ancient things lurking within that forest, and it gives you
Interesting.
this wonderful sense of agency. Is in like you can play treasure hunting within the depths of the forests, or you can go political in the cities, and anything in between. It's a very flexible thing. It's a really, like I'm a big fan of their Alien role playing game because that really builds a good atmosphere with a good system. So that's what I'll be doing in the next couple of weeks for reading a lot and then writing a lot of reviews for them.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so definitely have. So I'm gonna definitely get all the links in there for you. Make sure that we get that onto our website here and onto the podcast episode. We'll have that link for all of you for sure. Um, and so I just wanted to thank you so much for being on the show here.
My
Definitely,
pleasure.
look forward to maybe getting you back on somewhere down the road for sure, or just to talk to you in general now that you're in our Discord. And if you have a Discord, send me a link for that. And if you have an open Discord, that is,
Yep,
I
sure
can
thing.
definitely jump on in, and always interested to see what other active games are going on out there, especially if you have any information on that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah,
Always.
it's lovely to also meet people. It's fun to talk to other gamers from across the world because it's just it's all gaming, but sometimes just where you live forms the type of stories you tell and the type of things that you engage in. But it's just fun to share these experiences to learn and grow in that as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's one of the things that's one of the reasons why I like putting it out there was the having the actual plays and recording it. And now I'm like going back and like rewatching stuff and I'm like, sometimes I'm like, "Oh man, that was a mess up." But we'll move on. But a lot of the times I'm actually just going, "Wow, like I totally forgot all about this. Like I completely forgot that this even happened, especially when you go back 6 months and you're like, whoa, okay, that was a cool thing that I would have never remembered had I not recorded it.
Even more horrible when your players remind you of it. That's like,
Right?
remember that? Probably, but you should tell me anyway. Tell it in character so I can learn. It's
Right.
like, no, I'd completely forgotten that that ever happened. Ooh, that's not a good thing. Ooh. But yeah, well, one of the things that I would like to do is run a couple of one shots as well, because there's some interesting tools that I found recently that help with a lot with map detection and so on. And there's a few one shots that I still that I would actually like to run as like a Twitch stream,
Hmm.
but I still need to look into having to set up and how to arrange everything with the players, make a nice interface, and so on. So
Yeah, if you have any
we have.
questions about that, I use Roll20 for my stuff, and then I just kind of like have this Twitch kind of showing the screen of that. But some people, sometimes depends. We were going cameraless. Camera is usually preferred, I think, for Let's Plays. But we also just kind of put ours on our podcast as well. So we're not really into the visual as much, although we do have some visual stuff that we kind of put on there. But it's definitely one of those things that I would think is very it it helps a lot to have visual, like having the cameras for everybody, just so you can
Yeah.
kind of see what everybody's facial expressions are and stuff like that.
I'm a fairly emotive storyteller, so I tend to change my voices a lot and have a lot of expressions. That occasionally has been a challenge because not everybody's comfortable with using a camera while
Mm-hmm.
playing.
Yep.
But it's usually like it's you have to be able to express yourself while still being clear. And over Discord, that's not always the easiest thing to do. The
Yep.
camera does help because of recent sessions we've been starting to use them for everybody as well. And you do notice that it improves the game, even if it's like the shoddy front camera of a phone that they're using.
Mm-hmm.
Just the fact that you can, when you're talking to them, you can shorten the dialogue, as in like he looks at you with frowned eyebrows that you're just looking at it like, what are you saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it helps to convey so much to the player, and then you really notice the difference between like what we discussed, like playing online and playing at a table.
Mm-hmm. I am really looking forward to getting back to playing at a table, like just
Okay.
and I got a good mic for it now that should give me a nice 360 that I can just have it in the middle of the table, just recording what's going on. And I'm really looking forward to those. I feel like you could get way more heated in character if you're
Oh,
if
oh
you're in
yes.
person, like because you
I,
just
I'm.
you feel like the emotion just rolling off of the people, and you can't feel that through as to a certain degree you can. There's some resonance that kind of comes through, but it's definitely it's different, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is like this good shouting match that you can have with a character. It's like again in my Dark Ages, I basically just to the conclusion of a plot point, one of my players realized something, which he then just looked at me, and he just stood up and he says like, I need to go outside for a bit, and I need to process this. Like,
I
good,
broke him.
one golden star for me. This took a year and a half to fulfill, but oh yeah, that's the thing that we're doing it for.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I just want to give some shout outs here at the very end to some of our fellow podcasters out there. You can definitely check out Twin Cities by Night, Midnight Express podcast, Utility Muffin Labs, World of Dark Ages podcast, and the Mage podcast. All of them have some really great episodes out there, all kind of having their own little niches. Some of them being kind of more general, but definitely, like World of Darkness, World of Dark Ages podcast focuses very much on Dark Ages. Mage the podcast, you can get a lot of really good mage information from that podcast. Twin Cities by Night has much more of an actual play. You can get tons of different kinds of actual plays. World of Darkness and other different gaming systems, Call of Cthulhu, and other things that they kind of do, really cool stuff that they have over there. And then Utility Muffin Labs has just a ton of different stuff. And if you enjoyed the show, feel free to give us a follow, a like, or whatever. Thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever you feel how to express yourself to the channel. You can get that on. We're on Discord, we're on Twitch, we're on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. Don't forget to tune in to our Mage the Ascension Technogate actual play that we have going on Monday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time on Twitch. And you can find links for all of these in our show notes, as well as you can also check out our brand new website we just got going, theageofstories.com. So theageofstories.com. That is our brand new website for Golden Age Stories and for the podcast. And then if you like space MMORPGs like I do, go ahead and check out EVE Online. Join up with Golden Age Stories to become a pirate, or go ahead and help us defend the Galente Federation from the war that they're having with the Keldari. You can join our in-game channel, Golden Age Stories, and give the code word Crossing Darkness to get a special prize in-game if you do that. Tomorrow I will be interviewing Michael McLaughlin. And thank you all for listening, and see you tomorrow.
If somebody wants to play some Magic the Gathering Arena against me, I'm really happy to send you my my username as well, because I've always been looking to get some nice challenges going.
Yeah. I'll put that in. What's your username?
Or
are you just in general? Okay. Yep.
Just in general, yes.
Okay, cool. I will definitely have to check you out with that. Thanks so much for being on the show, man. You have a great day.
My pleasure. It was a pleasure to be here.